All right, everybody, welcome in. It's another episode of the Grayed Out Podcast. I'm your host, Jay the Gray. We've got something good for you tonight, so I hope you are here ready to get grayed out. Tonight's episode is entitled Police Reform and Partisan Games, or Why We Should Read Stuff. Why we should read stuff. It's important. This has actually been on my content calendar for quite a while to come out with and talk about, is why we should look at and read legislation that's going through the branches of Congress. So the House of Representatives and Senate. When we're talking about major legislation, they pass stuff all the time that is largely, it's not inconsequential, but it's not majorly consequential. It's like a lot of different stuff related to different parts of the country, small bills, but there are major pieces of legislation that are newsworthy pieces of legislation that we need to be paying attention to. Sometimes there are small bits of legislation we need to be paying attention to. I will make a point to say, like, back when the COVID-19, the coronavirus stimulus packages were being put together, I would say a lot of people were arguing, a lot of people were saying things that weren't necessarily helpful regarding those bills, and they hadn't read them. And of course, there was a lot of hullabaloo. Let's call it hullabaloo, because that's just a really fun word, right? Hullabaloo over what the Democrats were trying to stuff into the coronavirus stimulus package. And there was some weird stuff, right? And the Republicans got out there and they called them on it. So that was good. It was bad they were trying to stuff stuff in the bill that was really weird, right? I don't understand why we need to worry about aircraft emissions when we're trying to get people help on the ground. But then at the same time, you flip that bill around, and when they go to push forward, they had put the increased unemployment benefit together for people, and the Republicans stymied that because they were all like, oh my gosh, people won't want to go back to work. And I'm like, hey, you guys are always talking about how Americans want to work and Americans want to have jobs and they want to get out there and be productive. We're not letting them work. If you give them some extra money, that's going to help and keep the economy running. So you know what? Let them have the extra unemployment. It's not forever. It's going to run out and they'll go back to work. If they don't want to go back to work in the meantime, someone else will get a job. That's just the law, right, of employment. Someone else is going to be there to take that job, whether they're getting unemployment or not. I do believe and agree that more people want to work than lay around and do nothing because, I mean, for crying out loud, I work from home and sometimes I'm like, oh, just being at home. Sometimes I miss going to my office. It's not like really about that much. Anyway, that said, that was that bill. That was then, this is now. If you're a fan of the Grayed Out Podcast, if you've been watching, if you follow me on social media, Instagram or Facebook, yesterday and today, I was all over this police reform bill. Now, I am an advocate for police reform. I will say this. I'm also a believer and advocate for law enforcement. I have known many law enforcement officers throughout my life, and they are good guys, good women. They do a great job. They love their communities. They're out doing good work, and they're not, the ignorant a-holes that everyone seems to try to make them out to be. Now, are there cops out there that shouldn't be in the job, that probably have no business carrying a badge and a gun? Yeah. You knew them in high school. Either they were the super picked on guy or they were the guy that picked on everybody, right? Those guys don't belong in law enforcement because they often don't learn the lesson of what their character will create when given the kind of authority that law enforcement gives you. So we see those examples. Those are the ones that are on TV. Those are the ones that are destroying innocent lives. Those are the ones murdering people. I'm just going to say that's a fact, period. People who go into law enforcement with poor character quality, with no desire to serve the community, but they want to lord authority over the community, those are dudes you need to root out super fast. Super fast. So, I am for the police, but I am for policing reform unequivocally. There you go. With all of that going on yesterday, obviously we saw the beginning of some movement in the Grand Capital, Washington, D.C., in the houses of Congress, right? The Senate, the House of Representatives. The Senate comes out with their bill, the Justice Act, right? So this is policing reform. They bring it to the floor. Senator Tim Scott, he authored the bill and came out and they wanted to bring it to the floor in the Senate. They opened it to the amendment process, which means if there were issues, the Democrats in the Senate could point out the issues, they could have the discussion, they could amend the bill right there in the public's eye, make the discussion happen. And so it got shut down. And so here's where I'm at. Like, honestly, I feel like this is a great springboard from when we were earlier this week talking about villains. And probably because there are so many to choose from today. Okay, maybe that's a little dramatic. That's like super dramatic. So, but I'm miffed. I'm pretty pissed off at this whole situation because there's no way that this should have gone down the way it's gone down. Like, we have two parties, unfortunately, only two parties, a two-party system, because we can't break free of it for whatever reason. So we have two-party system, and these two parties obviously despise each other. If you haven't been paying attention, that's just kind of the fact of American politics. Democrats don't like Republicans. Republicans don't like Democrats. And it seems like they just don't want to play nice together, no matter how much we, the people that keep voting their butts into office, want them to get along. We want them to work together. We want solutions. They want partisan politics, except for the people that live in their fringes and live in their houses that are clearly marked Democrat, clearly marked Republican, and they just want to point fingers and toe that line and make the problem continually worse. That's all we're getting. It's not getting better. And I can't understand why people cannot see this, because they'd rather point the finger and lay blame. Now, I'm going to say this. I think there's some blame to be laid on this particular case. I was pretty mad today when I found out that the House bill, right, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, that passed in the House largely along partisan lines. In other words, all the Democrats voted for it. In fact, they were all listed as co-sponsors. Every Democrat in Congress was listed as a co-sponsor for this bill. I'm sorry, if you're a podcast listener, I'm just shaking my head because all 230 are co-sponsors of the bill. One person wrote it, and we all know who that is. And here's how this all went down. I'm going to start with the bills themselves because this is why I think this whole situation is so important to understand. The bills, if you read them, and if you're going to continue to listen to this podcast and we come across major legislation in the government, I'm going to be talking about it, and you may get tired of me saying to you, read the bills. Some of them are egregiously long, I understand, right? So the Corona stimulus package bills, as an example, were, like the Senate bill that the Republicans crafted was like 200 and something pages, and the House bill that the Democrats crafted was like 11. It was like, I have no idea why it needed that many pages. It was crazy long, because it was so chock full of unnecessary crap. By the time they got it revised and got it done, I think they'd carved out like 400 pages, maybe 300 something pages. It got down to somewhere around 800 pages. It was like unbelievable, the amount of reading and perusing. And I'm so thankful for document search and Control F or Command F. I'm a Mac guy, so hate me now, hate me later. I don't care. I like Macs. So that said, I'm so thankful I was able to look up, like, I'm looking for the specific things. Like, is this really in here? And I'm looking, oh my God, it's really in there. And I think this is where the issue lies. The bills are available. You can go online and you can download copies of the bills from the websites from Congress and the Senate. You can download a PDF. Most news outlets, when major legislation is breaking, will have available somewhere. I find really reliable PBS. I'm not saying the reporting's all great, but I'm saying they usually have a copy of the documents laying around somewhere. Here's the thing. If you just Google it, you can find it. Now, me as your friend, as someone who wants to help you out, I went, found them, downloaded them. I added them to my website, which is loadsofrubbish.com. So if you want to read the bill, you can go to loadsofrubbish.com. There's an entire entry devoted to these two bills. So bills come out, read the bills. The bills are semantically the same. It's true. The bills are semantically the same with a few small exceptions. Small exceptions. And those restrictions that people find to be less than, diligent enough or too diligent, however you want to phrase that, right? Overreaching, underserving, whatever. The process should be that our elected officials, our elected representatives, our elected governance is supposed to be able to go to the floor, have big conversations like we used to see, like Mr. Smith goes to Washington and we're going to debate and we're going to find solutions. Yeah. No. In the Senate yesterday, they shut it down. They would not go to the amendment process. They called for a vote. They voted it down without any discussion, even though Senator Tim Scott and the Republicans brought it to the floor. Open amendment process. Hey, let's have a discussion. Let's fix the things that you guys see. Let's work across the aisle, but let's do it in a way that's open. And here's what I love about that. It means that the record is open. There's no closed door meetings. There's no chicanery. There's no bribes, quid pro quos, caveats, nothing. We're going to do it on the floor. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to fix this and get it passed. We can do it today. Nope. Voted it down. They said it was weak. It was weak. Didn't go far enough. Didn't go far enough at all. And I'm like, well, then why didn't you discuss and amend? If it didn't go far enough, push for it to go further. I don't think you're going to get a lot of pushback because, again, I'm going to point out again and again and again, as a nation, we're all waiting for someone to do something. We're waiting for it. The Republicans got the first bill to the floor. The Democrats voted it down because they didn't think it was a good enough bill. Now, my hunch is that the House Democratic leadership in conjunction, in cooperation with the Senate minority Democrats, worked together because the Democrats felt that their House bill was better. I'm not going to say it wasn't necessarily better. It was basically the same with a few exceptions. A little bit of overreach in my opinion. However, I'm glad for a starting point. Yesterday, the Senate Democrats called the Republican bill a non-starter. They wouldn't even discuss it. It didn't even start far enough. Even though if you read the bill, and again, I'm gonna ask you guys to go read the bill. You can go to my website. You can go look it up. Read the bills. You're gonna find the differences are slim, and they wouldn't even say it was a starting point. They say, that doesn't ban chokeholds. It only incentivizes the banning of chokeholds. Ours bans chokeholds for federal officers. Federal only. That's the only ban they put in. That's the only hard line drawn when it comes to banning chokeholds, is the fact that they banned them for federal officers only, right? Local, state, municipalities, counties, all that kind of stuff. Same exact plan, incentivized financially to ban chokeholds and carotid holds. So basically chokes that make you pass out. They don't really stop your breathing so much to make you pass out, but they can be very dangerous if someone is a Dumas and can't apply it correctly. So they're saying it doesn't go far enough. Theirs goes far enough. Theirs doesn't really go any further at all. They want to ban no-knock warrants. The Republican bill bans no-knock warrants. It's like it's literally partisan games that they're playing in front of us. And here's what's frustrating, right? They could have had the discussion. They could have made the adjustments. But, and this is a big but, They're gonna leave it, and of course, one side is going to frame it so that the other side is all bad and they are all good, and they're gonna let the press do the rest. So the media starts doing its job. I hate to say it like that. I hate to be one of those all the lamestream media guys, because but man, as soon as I feel like normally NPR. Some of them more like they're a little more centered, but it just depends on who's writing, if I'm honest. It just depends on who's writing. And the article today about the House passing their bill was just, it was just awful. It was awful journalism, because all it was is, and here's what I because of the way it went down, I am literally confused by the Democrats on this one. Because they didn't want to discuss the Senate bill at all. Non-starter, we're not discussing. It's too soft. Not hard enough. Doesn't go far enough. We're not talking about it. Okay, I guess you can do that because you have the power to do that, because you need some of you guys to vote to get to the 60. So, okay, there's that. Then what do you got? Oh, we got this other bill. It's similar but different in a better way. We're going to bring it to the floor. Awesome. Let's discuss. No. And this is where I just can't quite understand. Do they want police reform or do they not? Do they want police reform or do they not? Now, I was pretty ticked off because I felt like when it first came down, and it got passed, and only, it was like largely, it was along party lines. 3 Republicans joined the Democrats in voting for this reform, 3 of them. And I was kind of mad. I was like, the Republicans needed to be bigger in this moment and just get out ahead of it and say, you know what? We want to get something done, so we are going to go ahead and vote for this because we want to work across party lines. We want to make sure we're doing what the people want, and we're just going to get out and we're just going to stop. We're going to put a stop to all the partisan bickering, and we're just going to vote for it. And maybe they should have. You can make that decision. Maybe they should have. Until I found one small factoid out, and I was like, oh, man, are you kidding me? Because it felt to me at some point like it was just turnabout is fair play. Like, oh, you guys stopped our bill. We're not going to vote for your bill, even though you have the majority, and it really doesn't matter because you're going to pass it. And we needed 60. We didn't need a bare majority. I think 60 is not a super majority. Maybe it is. I don't know. To get the bill passed in the Senate, but the resolution in the House passed because it passed along party lines with a couple added. They didn't need the Republicans to vote for it. They got them, and I applaud those guys. They wanted to make change. That's fine. But when the Democrats introduced the bill today on the floor, it was not open for amendment. It was not open for discussion or alteration. It was open for debate, so they could get up there and make their points. But it wasn't open for discussion. It wasn't open for bipartisan work. It wasn't open for any sort of revision. It wasn't open for anything other than we're going to vote this in the way we want it to be voted in, and the Republicans cannot do anything to stop it, and that's the game we're going to play. And I sigh. And the thing is, when you read these bills and you see the vast similarities. I saw a video by Congressman Dan Crenshaw out of the Houston, Texas area. I'm just going to be a disclaimer. I'm a fan of Crenshaw's. I am. I like the guy. I read his book. I've watched him since he did the whole Saturday Night Live thing. He seems to me to be a very even-keeled guy. He's a veteran. He's a former SEAL lieutenant commander, and just seems to have a good head on his shoulders. His book was super balanced. It was not like everyone's like, it's right-wing propaganda. It's really not. And of course, because it's a Republican wrote it, you're going to say that, but I read it. It's not. It's pretty well balanced, and it deals with like outrage and how to stand up in an outrage-based culture. Not to be not outraged. There's certain things that deserve outrage, and he covers that. But the reality is, he stood up and he talked about this today. He said it doesn't seem like what one side wants is actual change or solution. They don't want the change to be made. They don't want the solutions to go forward, because now what they're left with is a half-voted bill that's going to maybe get kicked up to Senate, then it's going to kick around Senate, and if they're able to pass anything without, maybe they'll kick it back down to the House. But there again, it's just the ability to point the finger at the other side, saying they're not doing enough to make the change, while trying to absolve themselves morally, and they're counting on you and I. They really are counting on it that we won't read the bills. And this is why it's so important that we do. It's so important that we actually read these things, because they're counting on the fact that we won't. They're counting on the fact that we won't, and that we will just rely on the press to tell us what is in the bills. The problem is, where the press is going? They're going to the politicians. They're having press conferences with the politicians. So of course, right, you have the Democrats out there saying the Republicans aren't doing enough. Their bill is weak. It's lame. It doesn't go far enough. It only says this. Ours does all these good things. And the reporters just take it at face value. Absolutely. That's what we're going to write that. Of course. That makes perfect sense. Unless it's a conservative-leaning outlet, then they're like, well, no, the Republicans said. So, of course, both sides are claiming that their bill does enough. And if you read them, you're like, I think both bills would have done enough, or at least been a great starting point to bring both sides to the middle to get some solid reforms in place. And here's... Policing is largely a municipal, state level, county level issue. That's where all the policy change has to happen anyways. These are just measures to incentivize and ensure that policing across the country has some boundaries that are the same, right? So we're trying to put up some guardrails that keep policing in the same sphere everywhere it goes. But it's being politicized because it's an election year. And I'm just going to say this, and this might be super controversial, but I'm just going to say it anyways. I really do. It's hard for me, because I think this is an important matter for everyone. This is an important matter when we talk about Black Lives Matter. This is an important key piece to how we actually do something that echoes out through our culture, through our society, throughout the world, which is watching everything that's going on here. And we have the chance to say we are going to grow up, be adults, and do something good for the Black community. And it's being ham-handed, partisan games, politicized. It's being played up, and both, it's so frustrating, because it just makes it seem like it's not about Black lives. It seems to be about Black votes. I'm going to be honest, just face value. It's just about getting the vote and winning. It's about winning. My side winning, not my side working with the other side to bring about solutions that better the communities that we're trying to serve, as we all stand here emphatically in unison saying Black Lives Matter, and we want to get stuff done, except if it's not expedient for, the election year. Then we got to wait. Hold on, just wait. We got a few more months. We're going to take care of some stuff. And then we'll see what we can get done. And I've seen this too many times. In my life, I've seen this too many times. This is like lather, rinse, repeat. Lather, rinse, repeat. We have real chance for real reform, and the politicians get involved, and rather than sitting their asses down and doing the work that needs to be done, they'd rather politicize the whole process so they can point fingers at each other, and in the fall have their sides, their bases vote for them. Meanwhile, people like me that are out here going, where are the solutions? Where are the actual things that are supposed to be happening, rather than all this jaw-jacking, finger-pointing, and it's just, oh my gosh. So, we've got to, I just keep coming back to this thing, we've got to be better at demanding things of our leaders, and they have got to stop this nonsense. So I don't know if that means calling more offices, writing more letters, going online, signing more petitions. I'm dead serious. Maybe in the next election cycle, I maybe will start a nonprofit organization that literally is no incumbents left standing. Like a serious review of everyone's record, and people that are just sitting up at Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., collecting a fat taxpayer-funded paycheck to do nothing for a couple of years or many years. They just need to be put out on their butts and fend for themselves and stop getting fat off the taxpayer, getting rich. I mean, this is the one career you can go in and be dirt poor, get elected into office, and then ride that for as long as you can and come out a millionaire on the other side as a civil servant. It's insane. It's insane. So, my challenge to you, read the bills. I would ask you, what keeps you from reading these bills? Like major legislation. I'm just saying, I get it. When you sit down and you look at an 1,100-page document or a 1,300-page document or whatever that first coronavirus stimulus bill, I have it on my computer. I could add that to the links below, but still, it's like the bill, the first draft of the bill from the House was just enormous. And it was so overwhelming to even think about trying to read it. So I literally I was so dependent on word search and finding things because, everything, the language is drawn out and it's all this stuff. And you just need the facts. And I wish there was a service that could do that for us. If there's anyone out there that super software geeky people, like engineers, I'm not a software engineer. I work for a software company, but I'm just a project manager. I'm not that. If you're a software person and you could write something that you put a document in and it literally reads it and then, puts, of course, I'm afraid that if you put some of these bills in there, you might get 1,100 pages document and then get it down to concise to the point it might be about 13 pages long of actual factual things and summaries. Isn't that fascinating? All that said, So go to loadsofrubbish.com. That's my website. I've said before, if you don't understand why, there's an explanation on the website why it's called loadsofrubbish.com. That should just tell you, I know I'm talking and I get heated on my opinions and the viewpoints that I have, but I hold them super loosely because loads of rubbish. I'm just talking about things that I think, the things that I witness, and I just observe and see. And from my perspective as someone who doesn't want to vote down a party line, and I want results, I look at this and go, man, this is just one big, huge strikeout on the part of our elected leadership. It just is. We have a chance for real reform. This thing that's coming out of the House today is going to go up and down and up and down. And if it ever gets to the president's desk, he has said he will veto the House bill. And I'm like, why, Donnie? Why would you do that? We need police reform. Let them hash it out. But I would just why can't you, Democrats and Republicans, you congressmen and women, you senators, come together across the table, stop being petty, whiny children about your political careers and wanting to win at every turn and having good clips and bits so you can appeal to your base. How about some actual solutions, people? How about some actual solutions? I think the American people are owed that. And that's not even far-fetched. I know. You in Washington, D.C., you owe us solutions. We need problem solvers. And I said this yesterday in my live video. We need problem solvers, not problem lovers. And we have too many problem lovers sitting in Washington, D.C., collecting paychecks and doing nothing to solve the problems they keep blathering on about and blaming the other side for. Solutions matter. We need to demand them from these people. And I'm going to implore you, if you listen to this, if you hear this, I'm going to ask, of course, please like the video, like the podcast, leave a review on iTunes or Spotify. If you're seeing this on social media, share it. Right? If you're on YouTube, share, subscribe to the channel, hit the little belly bell notification thing, and let them know that you want to know when I'm doing this and I'm putting material out. It just helps the channel kind of get out there. And maybe if you even slightly agree with what's going on, man, just do that for me. I would appreciate it. I mean, See all the links that are in the descriptions of the podcast or here on the YouTube channel. Go down to the description, see the links. Go visit me on social media. Find me out there. I am out there all over the place. And if you find me on social media, I guarantee it'll be so much fun. Till the cows come home or something along those lines. I don't even know what I just said. But find me anyways. Follow me on social media. Follow me on Instagram. Grayed Out Podcast. It's all down in the. If you're watching the video, it's down. Just go down there. Find the links. Find me on social media. Read the bills. Loadsofrubbish.com. Go read the bills. I downloaded them. Put them in one place. Both bills. Find them. Read them. Write your Congress people and tell them we need better right now. Stop making excuses for not reading major legislation. Google's your friend. Command F, or if you're a Windows person, Control F, are your friends. Word search, phrase search, find it. Find the things you need to know about the bill. Read both sides of it. Go and listen to multiple resources. And then join me in demanding that the sides stop pointing fingers and start fixing the stuff we need them to fix in our country, which is a great country. It's an amazing place that we even have a political process that allows for that. We need to make sure that they're taking advantage of that on our behalf. So that's what I got for you tonight. Police reform, partisan games, or why we should read stuff. So go and read the stuff. Again, be better. Don't let your political persuasions or ideologies turn you into a person that just sees someone who thinks different than you as the enemy. Don't let it treat your family differently, your friends differently. Like, this is just politics. And we all are entitled to different ideas, and dissent and differences are what make us great and can bring us together. That's the truth. So let's be better at being friends, coworkers, family members, all the things. Be better every day. Better than yesterday, better than today. Be better tomorrow. I'm Jay the Gray. You've been grayed out.